Welcome back. I hope you've had a wonderful lunch, and it's great to see so many familiar faces over here as we continue with our NDTV Defense Summit. It is our inaugural summit, and I think it's been, Puneet, a good experience to actually bring in voices from across industry. But let me tell you a little bit about Puneet and the company that he's really made, Samtel. Samtel is a company that started making picture tubes for displays, for television. They now build touchscreen displays built to the most exacting specifications for India's light combat helicopter, for India's advanced light helicopter, for the Tejas fighter, for the Sukhoi 30, among just a handful of platforms. The words glass cockpit are now synonymous with contemporary aircraft in both the civilian and in the defense sector. Samtel is an Indian champion manufacturer in the state-of-the-art in this very specialized field, and we are delighted to be partnering with them for this session. Thanks very much, Puneet Kaura, for being with us. Before we talk about the specific technology, I've always been amazed at the story of Samtel, because you're doing touchscreen displays now, but you started with components for televisions, right?
Yes. So
how did it start?
Samtel is now, we actually complete our 50 years as we speak, and this company was started 50 years ago by our founder, who's here actually, Mr. Satish Kaura, my father, and it was his journey from believing in developing technology and coming back from the US and starting this company. So you are absolutely right. We started off with picture tubes. Picture tubes were all imported at that time, and we ultimately not only developed the know-how but know-why of developing picture tubes. And then we continued our journey to become, of course, world's largest manufacturers. And as that technology kind of had its natural death and flat panels came in, we moved into aerospace and defense. And actually our journey in aerospace and defense is also real buzzword of Atmanirbharta started. It was actually during the time of Prime Minister Vajpayee when they opened the doors for private sector, 2003, 2004. And that's the time we kind of looked at what we can do in this space. And we tied up with DRDO, developed the first kind of indigenous cockpit display for the Su-30, and we have supplied about 1,500 to 2,000 of those already. And we are also manufacturing, of course, so many different types of high-tech products for global majors across the world. And as we speak, we are developing technologies for the world. So one thing that remains at the heart of Samtel right from the inception is developing technology from basic specifications. And we have done that right from the beginning. So we are not doing any transfer of technology or build to print really. We actually develop our own products for the global market with our technology. Average age at Samtel is below 30. We are, one of the fastest growing defense avionics company in India. And, we are very proud about what we are doing with the Indian Air Force and Indian Armed Forces.
Average age at Samtel was what?
Below 30.
I would fit right in. But I think it's absolutely fascinating what you're doing now as far as touchscreen technologies are concerned. Could you tell us, about the state-of-the-art that you're now looking at, including in new variants of the Tejas fighter, presumably with the AMCA platform as well, and how you are able to develop solutions based on very specific requirements?
So, we have a slightly different kind of look, different way of looking at how we develop things. We first look at what is available in the world at the best, and the best technologies available in the world. And actually, we've been fortunate right from the beginning to work with some of the best global companies right from the start. While we were developing technologies with DRDO for HAL and their platforms, and we formed ultimately a JV with HAL, we also were continuously developing technologies for global majors. And we've actually, believe it or not, our equipments are flying in about 2,000 or so civilian commercial jets. We have worked with companies like Honeywell in the past, where we have developed technologies for their global supply chain. talking about specifically about touch screen, we have recently developed an armored vehicle display, which will be actually for US customer and US Army. And that product is a state-of-the-art product. We are actually very proud that we have developed a product for US Army before we have developed something for Indian Army. And that is all touch screen and high tech and a lot of AI and software in that. So, this is how we look at developing technologies, working with the best and looking at the best technologies globally.
And you're primarily based in Greater Noida, right?
Yes, we are.
There's a reason I'm asking that. Because a lot of people, maybe not so much over here, but certainly within our audience, wouldn't know, and this is nothing but a fact, that a company in Greater Noida manufactures state-of-the-art when it comes to cockpit displays, display systems, touchscreen now, wonderful avionics, built to exacting specifications in Greater Noida. This is technology which already exists in the country. What are your next steps in this technological evolution, as it were?
So, Vishnu, if you look at the product that we make, it is basically a very high technology box. Now, if you look at avionics, basically, if you look at even complex systems like electronic warfare, which Indian government wants to indigenize and bring private sector into it, are all very, very high technology boxes with a lot of software, AI embedded into that. And that kind of capability, we want to now explore to go into new domains like electronic warfare. There are certain sensors that we are looking at. These are technologies which are basically requiring indigenization and Atmanirbharta, as you mentioned. We are also looking at different kind of products. We are also kind of looking at technologies that go onto the naval ships. We are looking at some of the aircrafts which are used by Army, for example, helicopters. We'll be actually supplying majority of the displays that will go on the LCH and ALH in the future are developed and would be manufactured by us. So we are looking at kind of diversifying technologies into kind of more high-tech areas, using a lot of AI software embedded into that. And I think there's a lot of potential for doing that, and there's a lot of vacuum, I feel, because as you know, we are a very big, if you not forget about defense, if you look at electronics per se, we are a net importer. And if you look at the value of imports we do for electronics, we're talking about semiconductors, all of the news that you hear is all that push to kind of indigenize electronic capability in the country. And I think we are playing a very pivotal role in high-tech electronics and defense. We've also ventured into, by the way, into railway electronics. Yeah. That's another space we are looking into.
Your platforms naturally have to be ruggedized. In the case of military aircraft, if you're on a platform which is pushing 8, 9 Gs when required, you have to build to a certain specification which must be very difficult. Could you tell us about how quality maintenance, and maintaining that standard is one of your biggest challenges?
So, we operate in an industry where there is basically zero defects. There is no, you can't afford quality failures at all. And this is at the core of our kind of thrust when we look at what Samtel is all about over the last 50 years. And one thing I want to mention here, I was listening to the panel for global companies, and it's something that I would encourage more Indian companies to do. When you work with some of these global companies, I must say, the best practices that come into the company, and it's happened with us, and it happened to us right at the very early stages of our kind of evolution, are unparalleled. And those best practices involve things like looking at zero defect, skill development, systems and processes in the company which will be catering to the world supply chain. So that has helped us a lot, and we kind of benchmark against the best in the world, and we continuously evolve while we look at technologies in the future.
Imbibing technology is what has actually taken you to where you are right now. You've had JVs with Thales, I believe, among others. You also entered into an agreement now with Hanwha. So tell us about how technology induction from foreign sources was one thing, but you built on that technological base and now offer solutions which many of the original companies don't.
So basically, it all comes back to when you are developing technology, and then I was asked this question, you need to have, it is a very difficult journey, first of all. But at the same time, you need to have conviction. And there were times in our journey when we were lost. when you are developing something and you are developing it without any help for an OEM's per se, and you are actually developing and innovating, you are by yourself. And as we heard Raksha Mantri mention, you go on a path which nobody goes on, but it's similar to that. So we chose a path where most of the people don't go on. And when we chose that path, initially we thought maybe it's a very difficult path because nobody is going on that path. And I could so relate to what he said in the morning. And that's our journey. And honestly speaking, when you go on that leap of faith and you develop, and he mentioned about not imitating, but actually developing and innovating and not just copying what West is doing, we are actually doing products which are absolutely to the global standards and beyond. So actually, the product we have made for one of the US companies is plus to the incumbent that is a US supplier. So it's actually better than their product. And we have developed it over just 3 years, and it's a state of the art. So I think it's just a journey of faith, Vishnu. I think there is no shortcuts, and you need to keep on working at it. And once you feel that you are lost, you need to go back to your principles and your kind of ethos of why you went on to that journey, and you carried on that path. And once you taste success, as you say, success has many fathers, and
Absolutely.
Or failure is an orphan.
Who are the people who are your product developers?
Sorry, repeat that.
Who are the people who are your product developers?
So,
are they engineers coming out of regional engineering colleges? Are they IIT grads? Who are they?
So, it's very good question. We are actually, in the beginning, we started with a lot of mentors. So we had mentors from DRDO, Air Force, people who were guiding us basically on explaining the technology, on the usage of the technology. The basic technology development happened within the company. Of course, we had all these young, bright engineers from premier engineering colleges in the country. Majority of them are, as I said, very young, dynamic. The team is very vibrant. And these are basically, as you said, graduates from engineering colleges with different backgrounds, electronics, software, mechanical, and they combined their synergy into developing these world-class products. And I think they're doing a phenomenal job, and that's our team.
A final question. The semiconductor boom, which is, hopefully will explode in India, because we're looking at resilient supply chains that came up in the discussions this morning. If we do have semiconductor fabs in India, manufacturing over here as well, how would that assist you? Because semiconductors are in short supply.
So, as there is a global supply issue with semiconductors, it's getting resolved, but it became very severe post-COVID. And as obvious, we have global suppliers giving us some of those, critical components when we develop these products I mentioned. Of course, once these labs or these fabs are available, which would be probably another few years from now, these components coming from a local company in India would obviously help in Atmanirbharta again. So when you look at the supply chain, and in electronics, this is the heart of it, the semiconductor fabs would help in kind of going deeper into making the capability of Atmanirbharta more like deep and more kind of resilient. And I think it's a very good step and very necessary step, as we all know. And I think it would definitely help in the kind of products we are developing and capabilities while going into the supply chain and going to tier 2, tier 3 kind of development of capabilities inside our country, on our motherland.
In the intensely competitive international space, when you offer a product to any country and they read the name Samtel, it could be a product built anywhere. But when they find out that it's an Indian-built company, is there a sense of suspicion or a question saying, why is Samtel better than one of the foreign variants or options which have been there for decades? Why should I pick an Indian company? Do I know enough of them? Are they reliable?
So
is that a problem that you face?
Yes.
Mindsets?
When I look at, say, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, when we were kind of new in developing products for the global majors, we absolutely faced that. I remember very well our first product, we were competing with some Japanese suppliers, and our potential customer called up one of our existing partner to kind of validate, is that company for real? What they're talking about, is it for real? So absolutely there was, mistrust in India, can they do such a high technology kind of development? But as we have rolled on over the years and our name has spread globally, I think that kind of got answered by itself over the period. And now people know that, Samtel develops products for the global majors. They are supplying to the best companies of the world. And I think we are not looked at from an Indian company perspective, but a company which makes global products for global customers at the global quality standards. So I think that...
Sure, and what are some of the countries and what are some of the products that you are exporting?
So we have worked with, as you mentioned, Thales. We have worked with the Mirage 2000 with Thales on the displays and the cockpit upgrade that happened. We have, of course, supplying products to Honeywell for supply chain of the civilian jets. We have also working on more products with global majors, also on the civilian jet side. Then I mentioned we are looking at armored vehicle space. That's another big domain for us growth-wise. Of course, railway electronics actually is another space which has a lot of global demand for exports. Customers like Alstom and big companies over there. So basically, you are talking about the marquee companies, all the A category companies, and they are dealing with, obviously, our competition is also as competitive as it can get. So these are companies in US, companies in Europe, companies in Southeast Asia. We have also started supplying to Malaysian Air Force actually. The Sukhois are using our displays over there. So they came to us when they got to know. So that's another customer of ours. So the list goes on and it's evolving more and more. We're talking to more companies. We're working with a big German company now for giving some technologies in India for a big program coming up. So I think as we speak, this word is spreading and we are partnering with more companies on a regular basis.
That's not a mean achievement. A Russian jet manufactured in Russia, sold to Malaysia with Indian avionics and Indian displays. That really tells you a story of how this company is actually going, and it's one of their frontline products. It's been wonderful speaking to you, learning a little bit about so much. But there is one more question that comes to mind before we leave. Components, and you don't produce all of them. You also support industry in India, and you have to ensure that you get the very highest quality from smaller manufacturers. Is that a challenge? And what are these components typically?
There are two things that go into that. One is you have to nurture your own suppliers, and we have done it, and our suppliers are actually themselves quite independently supplying to our customers, by the way. That means they have developed to the level that they are not our competition, but for certain capabilities that they developed while working with us, they are good enough now for global standards. So it's another journey which took a lot of patience, a lot of continuous work with our suppliers. I think another very important point that we kind of emphasize, and it's not emphasized enough sometimes I feel, is the skill development. And I remember A. Marshal Baduria talking about it in the morning. Skill development is at the heart of not only companies like us, but also the ecosystem of our suppliers. And we are embarked on that journey as a country, but there is a huge gap. And as we develop skills, this kind of would get answered not only from our ecosystem of suppliers, but capabilities in the domain, and of course, looking at the world. And I have no doubt that Indian companies can actually be on the global map, working with global majors and actually producing products better than they have been getting from the global companies wherever they are in the world.
Puneet, it's been wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much for sharing the story of Samtel, and thank you so much for partnering with us in our inaugural NDTV Defense Summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you so much.